Welcome to your very own deep dive, I guess you could say, into the world of English idioms and expressions.
Ooh, I like that.
It's like having your own personal language tutor, right?
Mm.
Kind of crafting this whole episode just for you, ready
Yes.
to break down all those tricky phrases that will make English sound so natural, so colorful.
Well, you're so right to focus on idioms. They're really not just about sounding fluent. They're the key to understanding the heart and soul of a language, I think.
Absolutely. And, you sent over this awesome script with a ton of examples.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
So let's just jump right in.
Okay.
One that caught my eye right away was "It's raining cats and dogs."
Oh, yeah.
Like, who came up with that?
That's a classic one.
What were they thinking?
It is a classic example of how idioms can take a simple idea, like heavy rain in this case,
Right.
and turn it into something so memorable and even funny.
Yeah, but if you took it literally like you said,
Yeah.
you'd be expecting poodles and terriers falling from the sky. So for our listener, how do we define idioms in a way that actually makes sense?
Well, think of them as shortcuts.
Okay.
These like prepackaged phrases that convey a meaning that's bigger than the individual words you see.
Okay.
So raining cats and dogs just means it's pouring.
Gotcha. So it's less about the dictionary definition of each word and more about the feeling or image it evokes.
Exactly. And the cool thing is they pop up everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
In everyday conversations, business
Nice.
meetings,
Oh, I know.
even your favorite movies and songs,
For sure.
everywhere.
So knowing these idioms, then, it's not just about passing an English test. It's about, getting those subtle meanings, those aha moments that help you really connect with the culture.
Absolutely. Imagine watching a movie
Yes.
and finally understanding that joke that everyone else is laughing at.
Right.
That's the power of mastering idioms.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I'm ready to unlock these secrets.
All right.
Your script has them kind of grouped into different categories. So why don't we start with those everyday ones, the kind of phrases you might hear at the coffee shop or,
Yeah.
chatting with friends.
Perfect. Yeah, these are like the foundation blocks of natural English conversation.
Okay.
Mastering them will instantly make you sound more comfortable and confident.
Okay. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so picture this. You just aced a really tough test,
All right.
and you're telling your friend, that exam was a piece of cake.
There you go. A piece of cake, meaning something is easy peasy.
Yeah,
It paints a picture of enjoying a delicious dessert. No effort required.
I like it.
Easy.
Okay, now imagine you're at a party
Uh-huh.
and you don't know anyone.
Right.
Things are a little awkward. How do you break the ice?
Break the ice. It's not about chiseling away at a frozen lake.
Okay,
It's about starting a conversation, making people feel more at ease.
gotcha.
Maybe you tell a funny joke or ask a lighthearted question.
So it's like that initial clink of glasses at a toast.
Yes.
It signals that things are about to get more relaxed and friendly.
That's a great way to put it. You've hit the nail on the head with that analogy.
Wait, hit the nail on the head.
Yes.
Is that another idiom?
It is.
I always thought it was just a regular phrase.
It is. It means to be perfectly accurate to get something exactly right.
Wow.
You used it perfectly to describe that break the ice moment.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these idioms are just woven into everything we say.
They are.
Okay, last one for this round, and I have a feeling I know this one. Spill the beans.
Ooh. This one has a hint of mischief to it.
Uh-oh.
It means to reveal a secret, often accidentally.
Like when someone blurts out the surprise before the birthday party?
Yes.
They've just spilled the beans?
Exactly. It's like those beans scattering everywhere.
Yeah.
Impossible to put back in the bag once they're out.
All right, I'm feeling pretty good about these everyday idioms.
Good.
But let's be honest, sometimes conversations get a little more challenging.
Yeah.
Especially in a work environment.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You're right. And the business world has its own set of idioms, often focused on creativity, problem solving, and teamwork.
Okay.
Let's dive into those next.
Okay, so let's imagine we're stepping into, like a high-powered business meeting.
Right.
What kind of idioms might we hear kind of flying around the conference table?
Oh, get ready for a whole new level of jargon.
Okay.
One you'll hear a lot is think outside the box.
Think outside the box. Okay, that one's pretty familiar, but I've always wondered,
Yeah.
is there like an actual box they're talking about?
Not a literal one, thankfully.
Okay, good.
It's more about breaking free from conventional ways of thinking.
Gotcha.
Imagine everyone's ideas are trapped inside this box,
Okay.
and your job is to reach beyond those limits.
I like that. So if a company wants to really innovate, they need their team to think outside the box, to come up with those solutions that no one's thought of before.
Exactly. It's about challenging the status quo,
Right.
pushing boundaries,
Mm.
not being afraid to come up with those what-if ideas.
And I'm guessing those what-if ideas sometimes lead to some late nights at the office.
Definitely.
Right.
That's when you hear people say they're burning the midnight oil, working late into the night to meet a deadline.
So it's not just about, grabbing another cup of coffee.
Right.
It's about that intense focus, that dedication to get the job done no matter what.
Exactly. And sometimes you'll find yourself in the same boat as your colleagues,
Oh,
all facing the same challenge or tight deadline.
that's a great way to describe those moments where everyone's stressed out, but you're all working together. It's like you're rowing in the same direction.
Yes, it emphasizes that shared experience,
Mm-hmm.
that sense of teamwork that's so crucial in a high-pressure environment.
Okay, I'm starting to feel like I could hold my own in a boardroom now.
Good.
But let's be honest, sometimes we need a break from all the serious talk.
Yeah.
How about those idioms that pop up in like movies and TV shows?
Pop culture is a goldmine of idioms.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They add color and humor and often make those characters feel more relatable.
Okay, picture this. A young actor is about to go on stage for their big debut, and someone shouts, "Break a leg!"
Now, that one sounds pretty harsh,
It does.
but it actually means good luck,
What?
especially in the world of theater.
I never knew that. Why would they wish someone a broken bone?
Well, there are a few theories about its origin.
Okay,
One is that it's a superstition,
right.
like saying the opposite to ward off bad luck.
To kind of trick the bad luck?
Exactly. Another is that it refers to the curtain on stage,
Okay.
which actors would have to break with a deep bow after a successful performance.
So break a leg evolved from literal stage directions to a quirky good luck charm.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, here's one I've heard a lot. Bite the bullet.
This one suggests facing a difficult situation head on. It's like making a tough decision and just going for it, even if it's a bit uncomfortable.
I can picture a character in a movie saying like, all right, time to bite the bullet and do this. It's like they're bracing themselves for something really tough.
Exactly. It conveys a sense of courage and determination. No more hesitating, just taking action.
All right, let's switch gears to a more romantic scene.
Okay.
Two characters are trying to figure out their relationship, and one of them says, "The ball is in your court."
Ah, that's a classic way of saying it's your turn to make a move.
Yeah.
The decision-making power has shifted to the other person.
It's like they've served the ball, and now they're waiting to see what the other person will do.
Yes, it definitely adds a sense of anticipation and sometimes a little bit of tension to the scene.
Okay, last one for this round, and it's perfect for those moments in movies when, like, the action is heating up, cut to the chase.
Ah, yes. This one means get to the point.
Yeah.
Skip the small talk. It's about being direct and efficient, especially when time is of the essence.
I can definitely hear this one in an action movie.
Yeah.
The hero's got no time for long explanations.
Right.
They need to cut to the chase and save the day.
It adds a sense of urgency and focus,
Mm-hmm.
which is perfect for those high-stakes situations.
All right, we've covered everything from casual conversations to boardrooms to blockbuster movies.
We have.
But you know what I love most about idioms?
What's that?
They often have these quirky, unexpected meanings that make you smile.
Absolutely. They add a layer of playfulness to language.
Yeah.
So are you ready to explore some of those fun and unusual ones?
I'm all ears, bring them on.
All right, imagine you're planning a surprise party,
Okay.
but someone accidentally reveals it before the big day.
Uh-oh.
You could say they let the cat out of the bag.
Okay, that one paints a pretty vivid picture.
Yeah.
Once that cat's out, there's no getting it back in. So it's about revealing a secret, usually unintentionally.
Exactly. It's like that moment of, oops, I shouldn't have said that.
Now, here's one I think we can all relate to, especially these days.
Yeah.
Costs an arm and a leg.
Oh, yeah. That's a classic way of saying something is outrageously expensive.
Right.
Like you'd have to make a serious sacrifice to afford it.
Yeah, I can't help but picture someone literally handing over their limbs as payment. It really emphasizes just how pricey something is.
It's a fun exaggeration, but it gets the point across.
Okay, how about this? You wake up feeling a bit groggy, maybe a little sniffly. You could say you're feeling under the weather.
Ah, yes. A classic idiom for being slightly ill. Not seriously sick, but definitely not your best self.
It's like those days when you're just a little bit off. Maybe you need an extra cup of coffee to get going.
Exactly. Captures that feeling perfectly.
Okay, last one. And this one feels a bit sneaky. Beat around the bush.
This idiom describes those situations where someone avoids getting to the point. often because they're hesitant to deliver bad news or have a difficult conversation.
I can definitely see this one happening in a movie. Like maybe a character's trying to break up with someone gently,
Yeah.
so they kind of beat around the bush before finally saying what they need to say.
It's like they're circling around the topic hoping to soften the blow.
So after this deep dive, I feel like I have a secret decoder ring for all those tricky English expressions.
That's great.
It's like we've given our listener a treasure map to the hidden gems of the English language. What's one final piece of advice you'd give them to keep that exploration going?
Don't just memorize the definitions. Try using them in your own conversations. The more you play with idioms, the more natural and confident you'll become.
So it's not just about understanding them, it's about making them your own.
Exactly. Embrace those aha moments, those little victories when you successfully use an idiom and someone says, hey, that sounds really natural.
That's the best feeling.
It is.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of English idioms. Until next time, keep those linguistic adventures going. Ever get that feeling like you're missing some kind of secret code when it comes to English?
Oh, absolutely.
You know the words, but then bam, someone says something that makes zero sense if you think about it literally.
It can feel like you walked into a movie halfway through.
Exactly. And that's the world of idioms, right? Today, we're taking a deep dive into these tricky but fascinating phrases.
What I find fascinating is that idioms aren't just like quirky sayings.
Right.
They really unlock a deeper understanding of the culture.
Yeah, it's like a secret handshake for, really getting the language.
Exactly.
And that's what we're doing in this deep dive. Everyday idioms, work idioms, even some from pop culture, movies and stuff.
We've got a lot of sources to dig into.
So much to uncover. Ready to get started?
Absolutely. Let's decode some idioms.
Okay, picture this. You're at a party trying to, chat with someone new. What's that first crucial step?
Well, you got to break the ice, as they say.
Break the ice. It's funny, we use this like physical act of breaking something to describe easing that social awkwardness.
It's really about overcoming that initial barrier. Like, if you're breaking ice, you're clearing a path.
I see.
And that's what a good conversation starter does, open things up.
Makes sense. So it's not just small talk, it's more about like building a connection.
Sure,
Right?
creating that flow.
And once that ice is broken, you might find yourself really clicking with someone, like hitting it off.
Exactly. Hitting it off implies that, instant rapport, that spark that makes conversation effortless.
It's like finding that common ground, that wavelength. And speaking of being on the same page, what about idioms for when we're, making sure we understand each other?
Oh, hit the nail on the head comes to mind. It's like saying, you got it, you understand perfectly.
It's interesting. We use so many physical metaphors, hitting nails, breaking ice, to describe these like abstract ideas.
No, it's one of the things that makes idioms so interesting, don't you think?
Absolutely. Okay, let's shift to the workplace. You're in a meeting, and someone throws out a really innovative idea.
Ah, they're encouraging everyone to think outside the box.
Think outside the box. It feels like that's become even more important these days, with everything changing so fast.
Totally. Industries evolve. They need fresh perspectives.
Right.
This idiom really reflects that, it's not enough to stay within those old boundaries anymore.
So thinking outside the box isn't just a suggestion. It's like essential for success.
It is in so many fields these days.
Definitely. But even the most creative teams, they hit roadblocks sometimes, right? What are some idioms for that feeling of being stuck?
Well, you might say you're running into a brick wall.
Running into a brick wall, it's that frustration when, like, nothing's moving forward.
Right. Or you might say you're hitting a snag. That's more for unexpected difficulties.
Oh, I see. So it's like when everything's going smoothly and then, bam, a problem pops up. And it's how we react to those snags that often, determines the outcome.
It really does.
Okay, so resilience, adaptability, those become key. But sometimes, even with our best efforts, projects get delayed.
Happens all the time.
What do we say when those deadlines are approaching?
You might say you're cutting it close or even down to the wire.
Oh, I feel the urgency in those, like you're racing against the clock.
Exactly. And in those high-pressure situations, good communication becomes even more important.
Absolutely. So what about idioms that emphasize being direct? No beating around the bush.
Oh, well, there's the classic cut to the chase.
Cut to the chase, love it, skip the fluff, get to the point.
Especially when time is precious. It's like saying, just give me the heart of the matter.
Precisely. And on the flip side, what about when someone's being evasive, avoiding the topic?
Then we might say they're beating around the bush. Funny how that works.
It is. They're dancing around the issue instead of addressing it directly.
And that can be so frustrating.
Totally. Okay, last scenario for now. We all make mistakes, right? What are some idioms for those, oops moments?
Well, we might say we dropped the ball if we messed up or didn't follow through.
Drop the ball. Yeah, it implies that you had the responsibility, but, like, didn't handle it.
It does. And sometimes those mistakes, they can be pretty embarrassing,
Yeah.
even if they're unintentional.
Oh, like when you accidentally reveal a secret.
Yes. Then you've really let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah.
And once it's out.
There's no putting it back in.
Exactly.
This has been a fantastic start to our deep dive into English idioms. So much uncovered already.
It's amazing how much depth there is to these seemingly simple phrases.
Absolutely. We've only just scratched the surface.
There's a whole universe of idioms out there.
So join us for part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into this fascinating world. Welcome back to our deep dive into English idioms. Last time we were talking about how these phrases, they're not just about the words themselves.
Right.
It's like they add this extra layer of meaning, you know?
Absolutely. It's about grasping the cultural context, the shared experiences that idioms represent.
Exactly. It's like they give you a glimpse into, well, the heart of the language.
And that's what makes exploring idioms so fascinating, I think.
For sure. So I'm curious about idioms we use for, like, really strong emotions, like surprise, for instance.
Oh, you might say something knocked your socks off if it was really unexpected.
Knocked your socks off. That's a good one. Like you were so surprised you literally lost your sock.
It's vivid, right? And it works for anything impressive, too, not just surprises.
True. What about when something happens really suddenly, out of nowhere?
Then we say it happened out of the blue.
Out of the blue, like a bolt from the blue sky.
Exactly.
Okay, switching gears a bit. What about when things, well, take a turn for the worse?
You could say things are going south, like they're heading in a bad direction.
Going south. I can picture that, like a downward spiral.
Yeah, it definitely has that feeling of things getting out of control.
Okay, so what about idioms for, like, determination? When you're facing a challenge, but you refuse to back down.
Oh, there's stick to your guns. Or you could say stand your ground.
Those are strong, like you're firmly planted no matter what.
That's the idea, having that courage of your convictions, even when it's tough.
And sometimes you got to face those tough situations head on. Right?
And sometimes you have to bite the bullet, just tackle it directly, even if it's unpleasant.
Bite the bullet, like just taking a deep breath and going for it.
Exactly. Takes courage, for sure.
Speaking of courage, what about idioms for someone who's, like, fearless?
You might say they have nerves of steel, or they're bold as brass.
Oh, those paint a picture.
Yeah.
Totally fearless, unshakable.
Right. Those qualities can be really valuable in tough spots.
They can, but even the bravest people need support sometimes. What are some idioms for giving encouragement?
Hang in there is a classic. It's that message of perseverance, not giving up hope.
Hang in there. Yeah, it's like saying it's tough now, but keep going.
Exactly. And sometimes those simple words, they can make all the difference.
They can. So, switching gears again, what about idioms that describe someone who's, well, really generous?
Oh, you might say they have a heart of gold, or that they're always willing to lend a hand.
Heart of gold! That's beautiful. It really captures that spirit of kindness.
It does. And those qualities are so important when you say.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about idioms that describe different ways of learning.
Okay. Are you thinking of something like learn by doing?
Yes. Or trial and error, that hands-on approach, learning through experience.
Right. It's about getting involved, making those mistakes, and figuring it out as you go.
That kind of learning, it sticks with you,
It does, much more than just reading about it.
But sometimes you need a bit more structure, right? Like a clear set of guidelines.
Then you might need to follow the book, as they say, or go by the rules.
Those have that sense of, like, being methodical, following a specific process.
Exactly. And there are times when that's exactly what's needed.
Definitely. But then there are times when, well, you need to break free from the rules.
Then you have to think outside the box, or maybe color outside the lines a little.
I love those. Challenging conventions, finding new ways to do things.
It's about pushing those boundaries and embracing creativity, isn't it?
It is. And sometimes the best ideas come when you least expect them.
Oh, for sure.
What about idioms for those moments of, like, sudden insight, when it all clicks.
You might say the light bulb went off,
Mhm.
or that you had an aha moment.
Aha.
Yeah.
Yes, like a puzzle piece falling into place.
That's it, exactly. That feeling of finally understanding something.
And those moments, they often come after a lot of hard work, a lot of struggling.
That's true. Often it's through working through the tough stuff that the solution appears.
So persistence is key. Never give up.
Couldn't agree more. But speaking of paths, what about idioms for those times when you're not even sure which direction to go in?
Oh, that's a good one. Like when you're feeling lost.
Yeah, you might say you're at a crossroads or lost in the woods.
I can relate to that feeling.
We all can. But those times of uncertainty, they can actually be really valuable.
How so?
Well, it's often during those times that we learn the most about ourselves.
That's a good point. Figuring out what really matters.
Exactly. Sometimes the journey is just as important as the destination.
That's a great way to put it. This has been such an amazing exploration of idioms.
We've covered so much.
It's amazing how much depth there is to these phrases we use every day.
And we've only just scratched the surface. There's a whole world of idioms out there waiting to be discovered.
I can't wait to uncover more.
Well then, you won't want to miss part 3 of our deep dive. We'll be exploring even more fascinating idioms and delving into their history and cultural significance.
I'm definitely hooked. Welcome back to our deep dive into idioms.
I'm excited for part 3.
Me too. We've talked about, how idioms express emotions, how they describe learning, problem solving.
Oh, we've covered a lot of ground.
But it's amazing to me how these, what seem like simple phrases, they actually have so much depth
They really do.
and cultural significance, right?
Absolutely. Each one's like a little window into, well, the history and the values of the people who use them.
It's like we're on this linguistic archaeological dig, uncovering hidden layers of meaning.
I love that.
So what are some of the idioms, like whose origins you find really interesting?
Okay, well, let's start with one that's used all the time to describe a messy situation. A recipe for disaster.
A recipe for disaster, yeah. Like, this is gonna end badly.
Exactly. But what's interesting is it connects cooking with, well, with life. Like wrong ingredients, bad dish, wrong choices, bad outcome.
Oh, I see. So it's creating a metaphor using something we all know.
Exactly. And that's what a lot of idioms do. They take these everyday things and use them to explain bigger ideas.
So cool. Okay, what's another one with like a surprising backstory?
How about bite the bullet? We touched on it before, but the history is fascinating.
Yeah, we talked about how it means to face something tough head on. But where does it come from?
Well, it's believed to come from the battlefield. Back when there wasn't much, or any, anesthesia.
Wait, are you saying soldiers would like literally bite a bullet during surgery?
They did, to deal with the pain, to show courage.
Wow. That definitely changes how I think about that phrase.
Right. It shows how idioms can reflect like really intense experiences from the past.
Okay, I'm ready for another one. What else have you got?
Let's talk about rule of thumb.
Rule of thumb. Yeah, that's a common one, like a general guideline. But I bet there's more to it.
There is. There's this myth that it came from an old law allowing husbands to, well, to beat their wives.
Wait, what? That's awful.
It is. But, as we talked about before, there's no historical proof for that. It's just a nasty rumor.
Good. So what's the real story?
Most likely, it comes from using your thumb to measure things, like carpenters and seamstresses did.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense. Simple and practical.
Exactly. And it highlights how idioms often come from, well, just everyday stuff.
Okay, what other idioms are like that, reflecting like daily life?
How about cut corners?
Hmm.
Doing something quickly, but maybe sacrificing quality.
Cut corners. Oh yeah, I hear that one at work all the time.
Right. And it probably comes from, like, literally cutting corners when building something to save time and materials.
Ah, interesting. But of course, cutting corners in building is, well, probably not a good idea.
Exactly. And that's what the idiom means too. Sometimes taking shortcuts, it backfires.
Okay, I love these origin stories. But switching gears a bit, what about idioms that describe when things go really well?
Oh, you might say, things fell into place. Or that it all came together like a dream.
Those are nice, like everything just worked out perfectly, effortlessly.
Exactly, like the universe is, on your side.
And sometimes that happens after a lot of struggle.
Oh, absolutely. It's often
Okay.
through overcoming obstacles that we find the best solution.
So those challenges, they can actually be good things in disguise.
It can. It's about learning and growing from them.
This has been amazing. I feel like I have this whole new understanding of, well, of how English works.
We do. It's incredible how much history and culture is packed into these phrases.
It's like Each idiom is a little story waiting to be told.
That's a great way to put it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of English idioms. It's been a blast.
The pleasure was all mine.